Hello, my friends. Matt here. And in 2014, I played my first disc golf tournament. It was at Oregon Park. We played the gold to gold layout, and I shot +2, which is good for about an 880 round. It was not a sanctioned tournament, so I don't have an official rating, but judging by their most recent ones, that's about what that would be. And the layout hadn't really changed much since then. Few trees fallen, few new ones grown up, but overall, it's basically the same course. I thought it'd be fun to see if now, 10 years later, if I use the same disc I used in that tournament, can I do better than that? Were the disc the problem, or have I gotten enough better to compensate? So I thought I'd walk you through what I'd be throwing in this video. This is as close to a one for one replication of that bag as I could get. Some of it is the exact same disc, which I have maybe not thrown in 10 years in some cases. So let's check it out. So for my distance drivers, I'll have a Gateway Spirit. I use this almost like a power mid-range for forehands at the time. I was just learning forehand and could only throw it about 275, 300 maybe. So I kind of used this like I would use a Justice today, which is kind of crazy. I had an Avery Jenkins Destroyer, which I do not have now, but I do have this kind of mellow star one. They're both red, and pretty similar flight. That's a Ricky era. If you're familiar with all the different runs, the Ricky and Avery ones are kind of close depending on the run. I have my first disc, the End of a Groove. I use this almost exclusively for overhands. I don't think I'll throw any overhands today, but you never know. My max distance backhand driver was this exact Fly Pro Wraith that I still have. My main forehand driver uh, was this Firebird. I also use it for thumbers a lot. My main backhand control disc, like where I would use a T-Bird now, it was a Discraft Reaper, but it was an X Reaper that was pretty beat up. This is a Z Swirl one that I anticipate being a good bit more stable. My controlled overhand disc, like 250 to 300 feet, was the Innova DX T-Bird. It was this one. It's beat to hell. I think it'll probably flip like crazy, and it's only about 150, 155, so it's going to be pretty understable, I'm pretty sure. My overstable approach disc was this Millennium Tachyon. If you've never seen one, they're kind of like a Pro Viper. Pretty overstable, but this one's only about 160, I think. It's got a lot of bleed on it. It's very, very old, and I haven't thrown it much at all. My main mid ranges were a Shark and a Rock. I still have the Shark. I actually borrowed this one from my daughter. This is her disc. I bought it from her when she was 4 years old, and still have it because that is her disc, so I can't get rid of it. I've replaced my beat-in yellow circle stamp rock that I broke with this Reptilian Bigger Bird one. They fly almost the same to my memory. I also sometimes putted with, sometimes approached with this zipper top pearly Rhino that my wife gave me. And my putters were Wizards. This exact RFF one, and then a stiffer SS one. I've got this Fossil Lizard from Reptilian that will be my backup for that one. That was more of a throwing putter, and I think that's how I'll use that one. So let's get out there on this cold and rainy day and see if I'm any better than I was 10 years ago.
All right, folks, we're out at Oregon Park in the gold to gold layout. I'm throwing this Firebird on a little baby flex line. I actually probably could have thrown a little bit harder than I did, but I'm down here in the circle on the edge of the green here by the trees, putting with that RFF Wizard, and it goes in really nice. Trying on hole two, the Firebird again. It's a little more stable than I'm thinking, so it bails out on circle's edge right side. I've got like a 30, 35 footer here, and thought it was going to hook up more for me, but it gets windy right there, and it pushed it straight, so I'll tap in for par. Over to hole three, I'm going to try that Star Destroyer. Could have used some more height, but it's there at the base of the hill, about, 100 short of where I'd like to be, but pumping the Spirit up here, trying to get it to go around that little group of trees in the middle, but it's to the right of them. Luckily, it didn't hit them. So I'm going Rhino to get the up and down par on this long par four. Rhino gets up there just fine. Since I was holding the Spirit from the second shot, I'll just tap in with it. Hole four, I'm going with the Spirit again, trying to get it out in the field. It's a long par three, but it skips way, way right. A lot of skips. I'm going roller to get out of this jail, and the Firebird does get out, but goes a lot longer than I wanted it to. So once again, pitching up with the Rhino. Have to settle for a bogey here that'll raise my birdie from one, so that's a little disappointing. Hole 5 is about a 500-foot par 4. There's actually a little shed down there. I hit it with the destroyer. Pitching up with the tachyon, kind of pulled it more left than I meant to, but it skips up, and I've got about a 40-foot putt to get that birdie and hang it just a little bit right. The Wizard's a little straighter than I thought it would be with that big old bead. I didn't remember it being quite that straight. Going forehand roller here on hole 6, doing that with the Firebird. It gets down just about pin high, but instead of falling right towards the pin, it falls left away from it. So I do have about 120 feet to go with the pitch up with the Rhino. There's some blocks around there. It hits them and taps in very easily, so I'll have a par there. Hole 7 is dog leg left down here. You need to get over the short pin, you see, and then fade left. Got a not a bad spot here, putting from about 45, 50 feet, but I'll have to settle for another par. On this one, I'm flexing this Firebird around. I'm thinking it's going to bail out and cut towards the basket, but it held straight a lot longer, so I'm like 80 long at the pin here. And we'll just put that Wizard right up under the basket and take my par once again. Trying my old play here with the beat up T-Bird. It's the only tomahawk I'll throw today, but it worked fairly well. Not quite as long as I'd like, but I've got an easy up and down for the par on a pretty nostalgic shot. I would normally throw a T-Bird here, so that's what I'm trying to do, but I did not trust this one at all. It hits a stump about halfway up the fairway, so I've still got a little bit of work to do. I actually used a tachyon here to cut around that tree and tap in for the par. On 11, you got the creek on your left, hill on the right, and the creek actually cuts in right there by the green, so it's a small landing area, as you'll see here. Great shot with the Firebird, though, and was able to get the birdie and get back under par. Going shark on this about 340-foot downhill hole. You got to keep it kind of low. It flips up beautifully and does exactly what you need it to do. I'll have an easy tap in there to get myself 2 down. Going back up the hill on 13 here, I'm trying this Pro Wraith, and it just about hits that tree, but since it's beat up, it flips right around it. And I didn't quite get the height I needed to get a good birdie look, but I'm in circle 2, about 50 feet. And just hideous approach there, but it taps in easily for the par. Trying the Wraith again on this downhill, since it did pretty well, but it cuts over early and bounces against that tree with a decent amount of fairway left. So I'm going to the Wizard, the Fossil Wizard, to approach and have to settle for another par. Going uphill with the Reaper this time. It's not that long of a throw. It's only about 240, but it's quite uphill, and you got to hit a pocket. Got about a 25-footer here, and able to get my birdie there to get myself 3 down. Trying the Wizard on this hole here, it's about 265, 270, and I just didn't put enough on it. I don't know if it was the footing that had me scared, or if I should have just gone mid-range, but just missed the little spin putt holding the camera there with the Wizard. Going tachyon on hole 17 because it's so overstable. I think it'll check up easy. It must have just gone right behind the basket, and I've got a long putt, but I did manage to make that one. So we'll be 4 down going into the final hole. Going Spirit on that big flex line up the hill. This one's a little bit more open than it was many years ago, and I just missed getting onto the real green there, getting that last terrace, and missed my putt.
Okay, guys, so something kind of funny I realized as I was editing the roundup. So I shot 2 over in that round back in 2014. But as I was playing through, I realized that the pars on a couple of the holes have been changed. Hole 4 and hole 6 used to be par 4s, and they're now par 3s, even though the distances haven't changed. So actually, relative to the current layout, I shot +4. So that'd be about an 860. Going through with some of the discs in this round, a lot of them I could throw back in my bag today. The Destroyer was great. I wish it was either a little more or less stable because I could throw it backhand fairly far. but not quite as far as I would throw my beat-in carnivores, of course. And then it's not quite as overstable as something I'd like to really throw full out forehand either. So it did quite admirably, but for my ideal throw, it'd be more stable, more or less stable. Spirit was still a really fun, super overstable disc. You can throw it kind of far, but it's always going to hook up for you. And that Firebird was fantastic. It was more stable than I thought it would be after many, many years of use and many, many more hanging up on the rack over there. So, a couple of great ones there. The Wizard I putted with fairly well. The one I brought for throwing, I couldn't throw quite as far as I thought I could on the one that I did try. It went like 245, and I needed to go 270, and maybe that was me. Maybe it was the wet day with the bad footing. I'll have to try that one out again. I think I can throw it further than that, but not that day. The T-Bird was so thrashed. It did great on the one overhead I tried with it, but I didn't really trust it backhand at all. So 150 beat up DX T-Bird. I don't know if I'd try that one again. Same thing with the Wraith. I had a good throw with it, had a bad throw with it, but I didn't really feel like I could trust either one of those discs. Only threw a real mid range once. That was the Shark on hole 12, and it was great. It was parked, flipped up perfect right under that tree limb and under the basket. Um, it's easy to see why a lot of people start with it because it's very straight flying once you get it going. Overall, the bag wasn't bad. It was somewhat, I wouldn't say poorly assembled, budgetly assembled at the time. And throwing with it again, I can definitely feel some of the holes in it. Having the Tachyon as my overstable approach disc when it was that lightweight is not ideal. But overall, I enjoyed it. It ended up shooting 4 down. So now that I realize the pars are different, that's 8 strokes better than I did 10 years ago with virtually the same bag. And I'm pretty happy with that. I think that shows some growth and the fact that maybe I wasn't such a bad bag designer back then. I just wasn't that good a player yet. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the next one.